You worked your whole life. You paid in every single paycheck for decades. You raised the kids, you kept your word, you did everything they ever asked of you. And somewhere along the way, the government stopped seeing you. The letters got colder, the forms got longer, and the help always seemed to go to somebody else. Well, I have good news for you tonight. Real good news. For the first time in a long time, the law changed in your favor, and it changed big. There is money the government now says is yours to keep, a lot of it. But here is the thing, and it is the same old thing. They did not notice you, they did not call. They did not mail you the form, so I will. That is why I am here. I am on your side, and tonight I am going to hand you what they should have handed you months ago. Take Walter. Walter is 68, a retired postal carrier in Akron, Ohio, 40 years carrying the mail, and not once did the mail carry the one thing that mattered most to his own pocket. Walter and his wife Dorothy sat at the same kitchen table they have sat at since the Carter years, and they did their taxes the way they always have. And they left $24,150 sitting on that table. Tax-free money. Money the law now says they get to keep. They did not know. Almost nobody knows. And that is not an accident. Here's the truth, and I'm going to say it again and again tonight until it sticks. They wrote it down. They just never handed it to you. $24,150. That is the number. That is real, and it is big. That is how much income a single American aged 65 or older can now keep away from federal tax this year. Not by itemizing, not by hiring anybody, by stacking 3 deductions that almost nobody knows go together. And here is the part that should make you sit up. For many middle-income seniors, stacking these 3 can shrink or even wipe out the federal tax you pay on your Social Security check. I said many, not everyone. And I will show you exactly who and exactly who does not. So stay with me until the end, because the difference is money in your pocket. In the next 20 minutes, I am going to give you 3 things. 1, the 3 deductions, the 3 pieces of this, one at a time, slow and clear, so you never feel lost. 2, the one piece that is so new, so quiet, that even the tax preparers are still missing it. And 3, the single line on a brand new form that turns all of this from a number you heard on a video into money that actually stays in your account. That line is the whole game. The whole game. And almost nobody fills it in. By the end, you will know exactly where it is. So lean in, because the very next thing I tell you is the reason nobody ever told Walter. And once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. Let me tell you about Walter. Because Walter is you, or he is your neighbor, or he is your father. Walter married Dorothy in 1981. They bought the house on a postal carrier's salary. He drove a 1974 Ford he kept running with his own 2 hands, and he filled it up at the Sunoco when gas was 55 cents a gallon. Sunday was the roast, every Sunday, at the same table. The table is still there, same spot it has been for 40 years. Walter is not rich. Walter worked. His income today is Social Security and a modest pension, about $40,000 a year. That is most of you watching. That is the heart of this country. And it is a shame, a real shame, that things ever got to where the heart of this country has to find out about its own money from a stranger on a screen. Now here's what happened to Walter, and here is the betrayal, plain and simple. The government passed a new law. It is a bill, a big bill, and it gives Americans age 65 and older a brand new deduction worth $6,000 per person. And it stacks. It piles right on top of the deductions Walter already had coming. The law is real, it is on the books, and it started this year. But nobody told Walter. The IRS did not mail him a flyer. His bank did not call. And the news mentioned it once, in February, between the weather and a car commercial, and then it was gone. Walter took the standard deduction, the way he always has, and he never knew there were 2 more deductions sitting right next to it that he was allowed to take at the very same time. So who benefits when Walter does not know? Think about it for 1 second. Every dollar Walter does not deduct is a dollar that stays taxed. The silence has a price, and Walter has been paying it for years. This is the pattern. This is the whole pattern, and you are going to see it in every single thing I show you tonight. They wrote it down, they just never handed it to you. They wrote the rule, they printed the form, and then they let you find it on your own, knowing full well that most of you never would. Walter is not slow. Walter is sharp as a tack. Walter was simply never handed the paper, and tonight you get handed the paper. So let me hand you all 3, one at a time. No rushing. You have time, and so do I. Deduction number 1, the standard deduction. This is the one you already know, the one almost everyone takes. For a single filer this year, it is $16,100. You do not lift a finger for it. You do not save a single receipt. You check the box, and $16,100 of your income is simply not taxed. Walter had this one. You have this one. Fine. That is the floor. Hold that number in your head. $16,100. But here is the thing the system is quiet about. That floor was never the ceiling. There are two more deductions that sit right on top of it, and you are allowed to take all three at once. Watch. Deduction number 2, the extra standard deduction for seniors. This one has been in the tax code for years. The moment you turned 65, the government already owed you a bigger deduction than the younger filer next door. For a single senior this year, that extra amount is $2,050. On top of the $16,100. Now stop. Did anyone hand you that? When you turned 65, did a single soul say, "Congratulations, your deduction just went up"? You had to know to look. And here is the quiet part. This only helps the people who take the standard deduction and know it climbs at 65. Most never connect the two. They wrote it down. They just never handed it to you. So now we are at 16,100 plus 2,050. That is 18,150. Already more than most seniors think they are allowed. And we are not done. We are not even at the quiet one yet. Hold that thought, because the third deduction is the one even the tax preparers are still tripping over. Deduction number 3, the new senior bonus deduction. This is the quiet one. Here it is. The one I teased, the one that is so new that the software is still catching up to it. Last year, in 2025, a new federal law created a brand new deduction just for Americans 65 and older. $6,000 per person. And for a married couple where both are 65 or older, that is $12,000. $12,000. And listen closely, because this is the beautiful part and the betrayal part at the very same time. The $6,000 stacks. It does not replace the other two. It piles right on top, and it does not matter one bit whether you itemize or take the standard deduction. Either way, you get it. That is rare. That almost never happens in the tax code, and it started this year, and most seniors have no idea, none, that it even exists. So let us do Walter's real math out loud, nice and slow. 16,100, the standard deduction, plus 2,050, the senior extra, plus 6,000, the new bonus. Add it all up, $24,150, sheltered, tax-free. For one single senior this year, that is the number from the very beginning. That is the 24,150.
It was never magic.
It was 3 deductions the system wrote down and never handed you, stacked the way they were always allowed to be stacked. Now the catch, the release valve. Who does not get the full amount? I am not going to sell you a fairy tale. You have lived too long for that, and I respect you too much for that. So here's the honest line. That $6,000 bonus is not for everyone. It phases out at higher incomes. If you are single and your modified adjusted gross income is under $75,000, you get the full amount. For a married couple filing jointly, the line is $150,000. Above those lines, it starts shrinking, and it disappears completely by around $175,000 for a single filer and around $250,000 for a couple. So if you are a middle-income senior, like Walter, like most of you watching, you are squarely in the sweet spot. You get all of it. If you are doing very well, you get less or none. That is the truth. I would rather you hear the limit from me than feel tricked later, because I am not the one who hid this from you. I am the one handing it back. And there is one more honest line, and it is the most important one of the night. You may have seen headlines saying Social Security is now tax-free for seniors. Careful. That is not exactly what the law says. What the law does is lower your taxable income with these stacked deductions. And for many middle-income seniors, lowering your taxable income by $24,000 is enough to reduce or even wipe out the federal tax you were paying on your Social Security. Many, not all. It depends on your income. So do not let anyone tell you your check is now magically untouchable. Let them tell you the truth. For a lot of regular seniors, this stack can quietly erase that Social Security tax. That is huge, and it is real, and it is yours if you claim it. Now, if you are still with me, look at what you just did. You just sat still for 11 minutes and learned the exact thing that 9 out of 10 seniors will never learn, because nobody will ever sit them down and tell them. Most people would have clicked away by now. You did not. And that tells me something about you. It tells me you are the kind of person who takes care of their family. You are already ahead of the 90%. Here is the macro loop I opened at the start, and I am tightening it now. I told you there was one line on one brand new form that turns this $24,000 from a number on a page into money that actually stays in your account. I told you almost nobody fills it in. We are about 90 seconds from that line. I am going to show you exactly where it is. If this is helping you, the single best thing you can do is leave one comment with the name of your state. Just your state. That is it. It tells the system more people need this, and it pushes this video to one more senior who was never handed the form. That is not for me. That is for the next Walter. Because here is what I want you to feel right now. This was never about being clever. Walter is not clever. Walter is careful. And careful tonight is worth $24,000. So here's what Walter did the night he finally found out, and here is what you are going to do too. 3 things. Write them down. Reveal 1. The form has a name and the line has a number. The stack does not happen by wishing, it happens on paper. The new bonus deduction is claimed on a brand new IRS form called Schedule 1A. Schedule 1A. It is new. That is why nobody has seen it before. And the number from that schedule carries over to your main tax return form 1040 on line 12C. Line 12C. That is the line. That is the line I have been promising you since the very first minute. That is the macro loop closed. One line, line 12C, fed by the new Schedule 1A. That single line is what turns $24,150 from a fact you heard on a video into money that stays in your account. And almost nobody fills it in because almost nobody knows the schedule exists. Now you do. Here is the good news for the warriors. If you use tax software, the moment you tell it you are 65 or older, it is supposed to fill that schedule in for you. So the real job is simple. You make sure the software or the person doing your taxes knows your age and checks that box. That is it. The whole $24,000 can hinge on one checked box. Reveal 2. The one number to check first. Before any of it, check one number. Your modified adjusted gross income. If you are single and it is under $75,000, or married and under $150,000, you are in line for the full bonus. That is the number that decides whether you get all of it. Check it first, tonight. And this is the moment that matters. The night Walter finally understood, he did not make a speech. He did not celebrate. He walked to the kitchen drawer where the important papers live. He pulled last year's return and the new schedule and one number written on a card. And then Walter slid one folder across the kitchen table to Dorothy. One folder, the same table. And he said, "This stays with us now. All of it." Reveal 3. The clock is real and it is ticking. Remember what I told you. This bonus is temporary. Tax years 2025 through 2028. 4 years and one of them is already in the books. This is not a someday plan. This is a tonight plan. Every year, you do not claim it as a year of stacked money the system gets to keep instead of you. And in 2028, unless Congress acts, the quiet one goes away. So you do not wait. You check the number, you name the schedule. You watch for line 12C. You make sure whoever does your taxes knows your age. That is the whole defense. That is how Walter kept his $24,000. That is how you keep yours. Here is what I want you to carry out of this room. The system wrote a rule that helps you. Then it printed a form and did not hand it to you. And it counted on you never finding it. Tonight, you found it. Schedule 1A, line 12C. $24,150 for a single senior, more for a couple, stacked from 3 deductions you were always allowed to take together. Full amount under $75,000, single, $150,000, married. For many of you, enough to quietly erase the tax on your Social Security. Many, not a fairy tale, the real thing. You did what most of your generation never does. You sat still and you paid attention and you took care of the people who count on you. So do the last small thing. Go to the kitchen drawer this week, pull the folder, and when your taxes get done, make sure that one box is checked and that one line is filled. Slide the folder across the table the way Walter did. Tell the person across from you, this stays with us now. Next time, I am going to show you the property tax break that quietly freezes what some seniors owe on their own homes after 65 in many states, the one your county clerk will not bring up unless you ask by name. Same pattern, they wrote it down, they just never handed it to you. I will hand it to you.